Okay, so you should have your materials that were spelled out. Worksheet 97, 98, highlighter, checking pen, not pencil. If I catch you fixing this with a pencil, it's going to be a strike. You need a checking pen on this one. So if you need to pause it to go get one, go ahead and do that. Directions say combine each set of sentences below into longer, smoother sentences. The ancient Greeks thought Poseidon caused earthquakes. He was their sea god. You have to pay very close attention to the directions. This says use in a positive phrase. We know that that is a short phrase that retells or restates or clarifies something else. So let's look and see what's being restated here. The ancient Greeks thought Poseidon caused earthquakes. He was their sea god. Well, he is Poseidon. It tells us he's their sea god. So Poseidon and their sea god is what's being repeated or clarified. We can use that in our positive phrase. So it should say the ancient Greeks thought Poseidon, comma, their sea god, comma, because you always surround your positive phrase with commas, caused earthquakes. Let's read it again, make sure it's smoother. The ancient Greeks thought Poseidon, their sea god, caused earthquakes. We have in a positive phrase, we could take it out and have a perfectly fine sentence. We put our commas around it. It's restating who Poseidon is. So that is correct. Number 2, the Japanese said quakes were caused by a huge catfish. It lived under the earth. That's kind of a crazy thought. Use a subordinate clause starting with that. So we have to really pay attention. Subordinate clause is just a dependent clause, meaning it couldn't stand on its own. We have to use the word that in our response. The Japanese said quakes were caused by huge catfish that lived under the earth. So we've combined it. We do not need a comma because we don't really have a conjunction. We used the word that instead. Lived under the earth wouldn't be a sentence anyway. So it is complete. We have a subordinate clause that lived under the earth, and it begins with the word that, and it works. Scientists discovered the true cause of earthquakes. They discovered it recently. Well, I notice it's repeating a lot, so we're going to be taking some words out. It says use a keyword. If you look, your second sentence really only has one new word. That is your keyword, okay? So, scientists recently discovered the true cause of earthquakes. That works. Now, if these are pretty tricky for you, it's okay. We will keep practicing and you'll start seeing the patterns here. You know that yes, the keyword is going to be recently because all of this is just repeating that, okay? Number 4, the Earth's crust moves, land masses bump together. Use and to make a compound sentence. This should be an easy one for you. We know that we combine two sentences. We have to use two things, a comma and a conjunction. They've already given us the conjunction, so the Earth's crust moves, comma, and land masses bump together, period. Make sure you have both your comma and your conjunction and your period at the end too. We do have two sentences put together. Number 5, this causes shaking, it causes buckling, it causes cracking. This says use a series of words. Whenever they say series, boys and girls, they're just talking about using those lists where you're listing and putting the commas in between. We are listing 3 things that it's causing: shaking, buckling, and cracking. So you're going to have 2 commas. Also, you don't want to be too wordy. You don't want to repeat stuff all the time. So where it says this causes, it causes, it causes, you can take those extra words out and just list everything that it causes. This causes shaking, comma, buckling, comma, and cracking, period. Okay? So you're listing things in a series with your commas to separate. All right, we need to check page 98. So flip. Number 6, bears can predict earthquakes. Other animals can too. This says use a compound subject. So we got to figure out what the subjects are. Remember, subject is the noun that the sentence is about. So we have bears can predict earthquakes. Our subject here is bears. That's who or what can predict earthquakes. Other animals can too. What's the subject there? Animals. So we're just going to combine it. Bears and other animals. Well, what can they do? Can predict earthquakes. We have two subjects, bears and other animals, so that is a compound subject. It makes perfect sense. We can take out the word to because we don't need it. It's implied in the sentence. Bears and other animals can predict earthquakes. Number 7, bears usually hibernate all winter. The bears in a Japanese zoo suddenly woke up before one earthquake. This says make a compound sentence. So we know when we're making a compound sentence, we have to have two things to combine the two sentences, a comma and a conjunction. This time they don't tell us what conjunction, so we really need to look carefully at the sentences to see what makes sense as your conjunction. Remember, again, your conjunctions are your fan boys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Those are in your notes, in your binder. And if you need to keep studying them over and over again, you really should, because these are the ones that you use the commas with. There are other kinds of conjunctions, but these coordinating conjunctions you use the comma with. So what's going to make sense here? Bears usually hibernate all winter. So picture them hibernating. The bears in a Japanese zoo suddenly woke up before one earthquake. So hibernating means they're sleeping. This says they woke up. That means these two sentences kind of contrast. They go against each other. So what conjunction do we use that shows contrast? Well, we use the conjunction but to show contrast. So that's going to make sense with our compound sentence. Bears usually hibernate all winter, comma, but the bears in a Japanese zoo suddenly woke up before one earthquake. That's it. We have two sentences put together. We used comma conjunction. Our conjunction makes sense because it's a contrast. Number 8, you were probably confused by. They woke up early and began pacing. They paced around their cage. It says use a prepositional phrase. Again, we will keep studying these types of things. Prepositional phrases. You probably do not know what a preposition is. Prepositions are words like around, about, above, beyond, into, by, after. They usually tell where or when something happened. So if you look here, they woke up early and began pacing around their cage. This is your preposition, around. This is your prepositional phrase. So basically, you're just combining it and making it less wordy. They woke up early and began pacing. We don't need to say they paced again around their cage. So they woke up early and began pacing around their cage. We have our prepositional phrase around their cage. It's simpler, it makes more sense, and it is smoother. All right, next step, you are going to have to get with a partner, write 2 short sentences about earthquakes Your sentences can be serious or silly. Trade papers with a partner and combine each other's sentences. You just need to check and make sure that your partner combined your sentences in a way that makes sense. You know, either they made a compound sentence with a comma and conjunction, or maybe they used a compound subject, whatever would make sense with your sentences. All right, that's it. Good job. So you need to keep this in your folder. And again, if it was hard for you, don't worry. We'll keep doing things like this. Move on to your next station.